Is Aaron Glenn going to be the first Jets head coach to be fired after their first season in coaching the team? Zack Rosenblatt of The Athletic laid out a really good article today explaining why the Jets will not move on from Aaron Glenn in 2025 or in the offseason. And today on JetCast, we're going to sit down, we're going to react to it, we're going to pick it apart piece by piece and go through the reasons why the Jets are not going to move on from Aaron Glenn. Now, you could disagree on whether or not he should be fired or whether he should be kept. I want to hear your reaction in the comments. So the first item that I want to talk about with this article, the first main thesis, I think, of Rosenblatt's article is patience. Patience is the linchpin of this entire deal. Ownership, Woody Johnson so far is letting Aaron Glenn run the ship. He's letting him see through his vision. Quote, owner Woody Johnson has mostly stayed out of the way so far. He's letting Glenn build the team, the culture in his vision. And I agree. You don't throw out a first-time head coach unless it's an absolute crisis. But I mean, is Woody Johnson's patience infinite? No. It's not infinite. We know it's not infinite. We saw what happened at the end of last season. Well, not the end of last season, but midway through last season when Robert Saleh was fired. I believe it was after week 5 when they came back from London after the loss to the Minnesota Vikings. Woody allows his coaches and allows his front office to do their job, contrary to popular belief. He really only gets involved when things go downhill quickly. I mean, especially last season, he was kind of sold that Aaron was coming back and we're going to be a playoff team. The defense was going to be great. Aaron Rodgers was going to be great. And it was clear after the first 5 weeks that wasn't the case. The team was on a very sharp nosedive. And at that point, he had had enough. He had seen enough of the Robert Saleh era. He had seen enough of the Joe Douglas era. And once he made up his mind, he decided to move on. He decided to start really taking control away from Joe Douglas because he knew he wasn't going to bring him back in the offseason. He knew that they were going to start a new search for a GM and a head coach. And that's something that I like in Woody Johnson, is that when he does make up his mind that he's finally done with something, he makes the proper moves at that point to take control out of their hands and set up the team to look for the head coach. Now, you can make the argument that the head coach search doesn't ever go well. That's certainly a different argument. But when Woody Johnson makes up his mind, he makes up his mind, and you have to give him credit for that. The article also goes into the financial aspects of Glenn possibly being let go. He's being paid more, a lot more than Robert Saleh was. I think more than double, if I'm not mistaken, over a 5-year contract. If you let go of Aaron Glenn this early, you are paying him what's reported somewhere between $10 and $12 million for the next 4 years, while also paying Darren Muji's contract, while also paying the assistant coaches. Those contracts are all fully guaranteed. Woody Johnson is going to have to foot that bill one way or another, whether those guys are here or they're not. And if you're going to bring in another coach, what's to stop them to ask for more money than Aaron Glenn? And now you're even more in a deep hole. I mean, Woody Johnson is a very, very rich man, but that is a hard pill to swallow. That's a lot of money that you're going to have to lay out on the table. It is a real factor. If you're buying out multiple seasons of a salary, you have to be sure that this isn't the guy. And right now, I think for the most part, while there are fans that are saying that he isn't the guy, for the most part, it is still up in the air. A lot of people are on the fence. There's also the Detroit parallel in this article that's argued. There is a very strong section that talks about the similarities between the Jets in 2025 and the Lions back in 2021 when Glenn was the defensive coordinator. They had poor EPA splits early. Both teams had fourth quarter surges in that they scored more points in the fourth quarter than they did in the first 3 quarters of games. And there was certainly talent gaps, and there was uncertainty at the QB position. Now you can sit here today and say Jared Goff was the right selection, but in 2021, people did not know if Jared Goff was the right guy in Detroit. Quote, put the Jets' first 6 games in 2025 and the Lions' first 6 games in 2021 side by side, and they are eerily similar. They really are. I just went through it. The EPAs, the fourth quarter surges, and the talent situation. It's a compelling argument. If Glenn were to help capitalize the same way they did in the Lions turnaround, then maybe patience is warranted here in New York. But, I mean, it's still no guarantee. And there is a DNA to Aaron Glenn. There is a culture to Aaron Glenn that Rosenblatt heavily leans on. He's got the temperament to kind of stay the course through bad stretches. He did it as a player with the Jets. He did it as a coach in Detroit. Again, quote, it's in Aaron Glenn's DNA to push through that type of stuff. This is one of those you can't easily measure it arguments. But, I mean, charisma, credibility with the players and the staff, and like a steady hand at the front office and at the coaching staff is something that I think goes underrated in locker rooms. And it's something that I think the players can certainly lean into and feed off of. There's poor in-game management right now by Aaron Glenn. That is not something that is debatable. The article touches on the mistakes in the Broncos game, going for it on that 4th down with the fake punt and then just letting the clock run out was a really bad red flag. It was almost like you were just kind of, putting up the white flag saying, we're surrendering, we're just running out the clock. We don't want you guys to have the ball back. And that was the argument Glenn had. It's a terrible argument. It's something that shouldn't have been done. At the worst case, you throw up a Hail Mary. So there's a lot of frustration, again, with players like Garrett Wilson, especially in situations like that. Publicly, he is questioning some of the decision-making, and that's dangerous to ignore on a long-term basis. And there are other rebuilds that have moved faster. I mean, look at what's happening with the Bears. Look what's happening with the Jacksonville Jaguars. The article mentions those coaches there, Ben Johnson, Liam Cohen. They're doing a great job. They're in playoff contention. And why can't the Jets emulate that? I'd argue that they can't emulate that because the talent isn't quite there. But that's an argument for another day. And there's no guarantee past the leap of faith. Like, even if you survive 2025, how many more bad seasons are untenable? I think this year, the excuses are kind of baked in a bit. You have the excuse of, well, the defense isn't good. You could expect Aaron Glenn to kind of like fire maybe Steve Wilks at the end of the season as a sacrificial lamb, kind of the same way Campbell did to his offensive coordinator after his first season and brought in Ben Johnson. But I mean, my verdict this season is, I don't expect him to get fired. I agree with the article. I agree with Zack Rosenblatt. I don't think he's going to get fired midseason. I don't think he's going to get fired immediately after 2025. Unless like this thing goes really south, you lose the locker room and like you go 0-17, then I think you kind of have to. I think the team will win probably 2 or 3 games, have a top 3 pick. And that could be enticing to a new coach coming in, having a high draft pick like that. And right now, looking at the way the quarterbacks are shaping up for this draft is really promising. But I also think that patience has limits. If 2026 starts off really poor, the same way it's starting off this season, again, that math all changes. I could see it more likely than not that Aaron Glenn doesn't make it through the full season next year if they start off slow. Now, if you have a rookie quarterback and you have him sitting, let's say you have a top 3 pick, you say, you take the quarterback that has separated himself. Let's say it's Mendoza and he's sitting behind Justin Fields. Justin Fields is still your starter. It's the last year of his contract. You want to sit Mendoza because you don't want to just throw him out to the Wolves immediately. I get it. That's actually a sound way of getting a quarterback up to speed in the NFL. If you go halfway through the season and Justin Fields is, stinking it up again and you don't have any wins, there is your excuse again, right? You drafted the kid, you're letting him sit. Maybe halfway through the season, he comes in and things pick up. If you put Mendoza out there immediately and it goes south, then I think now the excuse is gone and Glenn could be gone in the middle of 2026. There's so much up in the air right now. It really depends on how this team reacts the rest of the way in this season. It depends on what draft picks we have. It depends on who we bring in, and it depends on who we get rid of. It depends on the free agents that we sign. It depends on how the team starts next year in 2026. There's so much up in the air. Things that you got to look out for now as the season comes, I was going to say as the season comes to a close. We're not even halfway through the season. But, fourth quarter performance in clutch plays. If this team is able to put together better fourth quarter performances and show that they're competitive and have some clutch moments, have some big plays, that shows that the team is playing for Aaron Glenn and they haven't totally given up. I need to see the game management, especially at halftime, get better. I need to see the timeout usage get better. Aaron Glenn said the last 4 minutes of the half and the last 4 minutes of the game are the coach's time. And right now, he has failed in those areas. He has to get better. You need the sentiment amongst the players to be better. You need to see Breece Hall stop hashtagging or putting in hashtag free20 on his Instagram tweets. Not Instagram posts. You need to see Garrett Wilson in a better mood. You can't have him arguing with Aaron Glenn on the sideline. You can't see them get frustrated. I need to see more defensive consistency. I need more takeaways. I need more pressure. And again, the looming question, what's next at quarterback? Is Justin Fields going to... Listen, if he keeps Justin Fields in for the rest of the season, knowing what you know and what I know, then you understand that Aaron Glenn knows the assignment. Get the highest draft pick possible. If he puts in Tyrod Taylor to start winning games, that's almost detrimental to the team's future. If he puts in Brady Cook to see what he has, fine. But if Tyrod Taylor starts starting games because he's desperate for wins and desperate for saving his job, then we have a problem. Because now you're sacrificing the future success of the team and possibly getting a blue chip quarterback high in the draft. But if he keeps Justin Fields in, then he knows the assignment. Ride out this year, get that pick, start over. Let me know what you guys think about the article. Let me know what you guys think about everything I laid out here. Do you agree or disagree with the sentiments that I laid out here?